Welcome everybody to the next episode of Into the Storm. Thank you to VIP Mortgage for this lovely space and to Bison Ventures for being our sponsor and our company, which we own. Thanks, Trisha. We got Trisha over here. She's back. Trisha is our podcast producer and Trey's our engineer. Our next guest today is a friend from Executive Council 70, another one. We've had quite a few of them. His name is Austin Walters, everybody. So one of the reasons why I wanted Austin on here, because we used to in the past, at every episode, we used to ask all our guests who would be a good guest. So randomly, I was talking with Justin Hodge about you, and he's like, dude, you got to have Austin on the podcast. So then when I asked you, you're like, yeah, cool. And then today he's like, well, I don't really know how much I can bring to the table. And I'm like, dude, there's a lot more to you than you can bring a lot to the table, because part of this podcast isn't just about real estate. And I think that I always try to assure the listeners that this is not just a real estate podcast where you're going to find realtors and title people and loan officers. We're looking for people that are doing cool things in the Valley, have cool stories, and have cool experiences, and you do. So give it to yourself. Don't sell yourself short. So we usually start by talking about the past, your upbringing and all that sort of stuff. And in this case, I wasn't going to go there, but I think it's important just because of the fact that you're working with your dad. Sure. So you're from here, but then you were raised in Indiana.
Yeah, I grew up. Excuse me. I grew up entirely in Indiana. Honestly, I moved there when I was 5 from Scottsdale, so I don't remember anything from here. But grew up in Indiana, high school, college, before I left there when I was 23.
Okay. So was your dad because right now, obviously, you're in the hospitality business. Was your dad in the hospitality business when you were back there?
No, he was. He's actually fairly anti-hospitality in general. He's always very conservative guy, extremely conservative guy. He owns preschools, child cares, and he did some nursing home hospice stuff, and he was a builder, so built his own things as well, so saved a ton of money on that kind of aspect, but kind of tried to steer me in that direction once upon a time. Same thing with my brother, actually, who's a OBGYN. Okay. Both of us were just like, no, there's really nothing sexy about that. I was like, no, I want to kind of do my own thing. And, looking back, I probably was stupid. I probably should have done that.
So what brought you into the hospitality business then? Was this, were you in it at all while you were in Indiana?
Yeah, I was, I helped my uncle and my grandparents run their little bar in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was a little dive bar, sports bar. So I did help run that. And to be honest, the first job I ever had, I was a busboy, I think, at a bar called Buckets Sports Bar. It's not around anymore. And then I was also a busser at like Eddie Merlot's, which is the original Eddie Merlot's was open in Fort Wayne, which coincidentally there was one here in Scottsdale till recently.
Really, where?
Pinnacle Peak.
Eddie Merlot's. Have you ever heard of that?
It was a steakhouse.
Oh, okay.
Super fine dining, Pinnacle Peak.
What is the name of the Eddie V's? Is the other one? Okay. Eddie V's. Okay. All right. So I know that. So you went to Indiana University, and when you graduated, did you go work for your dad?
No. When I graduated, I actually worked at my family's bar.
Okay.
Bartending, and then kind of took over a little bit more of like a managing side of that. My uncle was kind of just one of those, like, you do this, you do this. That was his form of managing, like as long as it got done, but he didn't really have to do anything. So I did that, helped my grandparents out a lot. And then I knew that ultimately living in Fort Wayne, Indiana, bartending is probably not going to be like my end game. So tried to put the old degree to some sort of a use, and I went to I had some buddies work for Northwestern Mutual, so I was like, oh, that could be cool, Turns out it's not that cool. So I did that. I went that route and did that for a little while, and I was also working at the bar as well, so doing 2 things.
And then you transferred your whole mindset to I'm not going to do this. I'm going to change careers completely, and I'm going to move. Yeah,
actually, all my friends were getting married, having kids. I mean, we're talking I'm like 22, 23, 23.
That's what happens in Indiana?
Yeah.
Early?
And I'm like, man, this is, it just seems too early for this. I'm just like, is everybody just giving up? This is it. You know, like, everyone's just done, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like I have a lot more fun to have. And, you know, so I remember going to work one day, and my boss was always riding me at Northwestern for being an elephant chaser. They call me elephant chaser. I didn't want to have 20 meetings. I wanted to have 2.
With big wigs.
With big wigs.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, why work harder when you could just work a lot smarter? And so, but apparently that's not allowed. So, got into it with him a little bit, and it was just like, you know what, this isn't going to be for me. He agreed, and I went home, and I called my dad, saying I staked it for sale side in my house, which I just built that house, brand new. I'd lived in it for 7 months.
Yeah.
He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm moving. He's like, when did you decide this? I'm like, I just did. Yeah, today. Didn't even know where. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, I hate my life. This is not, you know, if I stay here, I'll be miserable. I just know it.
Yeah. So. And then, so where'd you go?
Coincidentally, I was watching a movie that night, and I was like, I love movies.
This is where I thought this would be a good episode.
I'm going to go to film school. So I did. I was like, now next day I was like, hey, I know where I'm moving. He's like, where? I'm like, I'm going to California. I'm going to film school.
So where'd you go?
I went to Brooks Institute in Ventura.
Yeah. We know that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I told him earlier that Trey also went to film school.
They're not around anymore.
Yeah, they used to do a ton of recruiting at his high school, like the little they call it I guess college fairs.
Yeah,
they were always there.
Yeah. I went there for 2.5 years until they came in and deemed it not.
It was no longer accredited.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, it's not an accredited. I'm like, oh, that's a waste of money. It's only about $40,000 a year. Whatever.
So you didn't get to finish it then. This time you were bartending and working.
I had
in
already
restaurant.
kind of
you're
checked
like,
out.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of reasons. You know, I was trying to go into the producer side of things. Being with my business background, I was like, oh, this could be fun. I could be a producer, and you know, you can't just go right into producing. It's weird. You have to start with giving coffee and laundry and you
have to be a runner.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know, not real big on authority figures and things in general. So I was like, man, this is tough for me because people are like, you go do this. I'm like, I want to be like, screw you, man. Like, I don't want to go do that. But so that was a tough position to be in. I just decided not to do it. And plus, I started bartending to pay the bills out there. And I kind of just fell in love with hospitality all over again. So
yeah, because so you left Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
You were doing the bartending thing, but your dad thought you should really go into becoming an insurance salesman. Basically, is what Northwestern Mutual does, right? Financial advising,
anything but bartending.
Yeah, anything but bartending. But then you get to California, you do the film thing. You're like, I don't really like the film thing. I kind of like the bartending thing again because you're older now, and you're like running bars, and you're in California. Maybe the environment might have been a little bit better.
I'm like 2 blocks off the beach. You know, I was, obviously it was 10 years ago. I was in good shape. And it was like, it was a good way to like meet people, of course, and a pretty social person as a rule, anyway. So,
so that's where everything got started for you, really, right? When because your career now is obviously elevated into owning these things. So the very first bar you bought was really somebody's bar that was going out of business, correct?
Yeah, this older woman had started this bar as like kind of her retirement with her husband, who was terminally ill. He died. She was kind of, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Really was just kind of left to the bartenders and the people that I worked with. We kind of ran it anyway. She had a crooked boyfriend that would come steal money a bunch of times, but so I really loved my job, and I loved the people I work with because they were kind of like my family out there at that time. Yeah. And she comes in one day and is like, I have to close the doors. And we're like, what are we going to do? Like, there's only so many bars in that area anyway. All of us, we all love working together. And so I ended up talking to her, and she's like, I need basically $20,000 to keep the doors open. And coincidentally, my grandmother had just passed away and left each grandchild $17,000. So I'm rich as hell at the time. I'm $17,000. I'm like, man, what am I going to do with all this cash? And all of a sudden, she's like, I can, if $20,000, I'm like, I could give her this $20,000. Of course, I'm freaking out a little bit too. I'm like, this is every dollar I have. Yeah. Which at the time, $20,000 felt like so much money. Right. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to roll the dice and do it. But I was like, but you can't have your boyfriend come in here anymore. That's like He can't come because he's revenue blind.
Right.
So we started running the bar as a group, like, you know, several of us, and basically I got ownership in the bar.
How many of you owned it together?
Well, really, it was just her and I, but.
Okay.
But you had all your boys, basically, like, you gave them all a job.
Well, yeah, we all kept our jobs.
Yeah.
And we still ran it the same way, which was, looking back, was terribly ran. But.
Do you feel like that business in general, it's always going to run its course in any concept? I mean, eventually you're just like, all right, I'm done with this. Because even if that was successful, you're having a great time, you still left that one too. You're like, yeah, I'm done.
And also, that's just my toxic. Like, I'm super toxic when it comes to. I get sick of anything, whether it's, houses, cars. It doesn't matter. It's like, I'm done with this one.
Yeah. So how did you get out of that bar?
So the bar owner down the street, he had an Irish pub that was really successful, and he bought this sports bar, and he's like, I want to turn this into like a sports bar / nightclub. He doesn't know what he's doing. I talked with him a bit. And he's like, would you have any interest in coming to work for me? I'll make it worth your while. And so pretty much I did. I was like, okay, well, we kind of talked about how it would look. And so I was able to get out of that bar, made, decent money out of that, and then went down and turned his sports bar nightclub into more of a nightclub than a sports bar. I mean, we didn't make a ton of money on the sports bar side of things.
What city was this in?
This is in Ventura, California, which anybody that knows me, Ventura, California, like, nobody cares about sports, which for me, coming from the Midwest, was mind blowing.
Right.
Also,
because that's all you could really do.
That's all you could do.
The Hoosiers and the Colts.
Yeah. Diehard Hoosier fan. And I'm trying to talk to people about that in California. They're like, now what is a Hoosier?
Where is Ventura exactly at?
It's basically west of LA, a little northwest of LA.
Okay. Is that kind of where Aiden's at?
No, he's in the valley.
Oh, okay. He's in the valley.
It's 30 minutes from Santa Barbara, 50 minutes from LA.
Gotcha.
With no traffic.
You have something? Okay. So let's talk about what brought you here then, because it's kind of going to lead us to where you're at now. And, in your relationship with your dad, obviously, and how you got him to change his mind a little bit. So,
yeah.
So you leave California.
Well, I didn't leave initially. I wanted to stay there. I actually wanted to open a bar in Santa Barbara and was trying to talk my dad into, who was successful. Hey, give me some money to do this. And he's just kept, I must ask him 100 times over the course of 6 or 7 years. And every time the answer was just no. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to have my own bar if you can't make enough to start one. And I started to miss my family a ton. I mean, like, I had severe homesickness from them. If I never step foot in Fort Wayne, Indiana again, I'll be totally fine.
Right.
But I missed the heck out of my parents.
Yeah.
So they were snowbirding here in Scottsdale, and I'm like, man, maybe I can move there. So I started talking to my dad, and I kind of bribed it my way into, him helping me. I was like, because they miss me too, and I was like, if I come back to Scottsdale, what if I come back? You want to help me buy a bar? And he was like, well, maybe. I was like, that's more than I've ever got. I never got a maybe. So we worked on that, and so that's when we started looking at bars in like Mill Avenue.
So the bar you have now, Low Key, right?
Yep.
Was that the initial bar you guys were looking? Were you looking at the dueling piano bar? You don't seem like a dueling piano bar type of guy.
I fell into the dueling piano business, and it turned out to be awesome. But no, I was looking into sports bars, nightclubs, all kinds of stuff. Initially, I'd bought a bar called Firehouse that a lot of people in Scottsdale know of. There was a Scottsdale location and a Tempe location. I bought the Tempe location off a guy named Mike Alexander, and it kind of fell through. I mean, I had quit my job and I had packed up my stuff and sent it off here and leased a house. I moved here, and next thing you know, that we're supposed to close in a couple of days, and I'm just kind of getting ghosted. I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it fell through, and I'm like, I'm here. I don't have a bar or anything to do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of unemployed, and I was freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
So that fell through, and then we just kind of pivoted. Started looking at our like next best option, which at the time was the Big Bang that was for sale, and so we ended up buying the Big Bang.
Did you guys? So the Big Bang was the previous name of Low Key.
Correct.
So did you guys come up with the name Low Key?
Yeah, we came
That's
up with
kind
the
of
name.
a cool name.
Yeah, actually, one of my buddies came up with it. I think I can't even remember who, but Yeah, low key, kind
Yeah.
of the whole concept there. But yeah, we just kind of we wanted to revamp the brand because it had been 11 or 12 years old at the time, Big Bang. So it ran its course.
So where exactly is it at on Mill?
It's 5th and Mill Avenue, so it's just right in the heart of Mill Avenue, right there, right off.
Is that where the Hefe was and all? Like,
Hefe's on 6th. Hefe was on 6th and Mill.
those are all gone too. I heard now.
Yeah, Hefe whiskey's gone.
Is it the old spaghetti factory location?
I don't know.
5th and Mill?
5th and Mill. There was a Hooters on the 2nd floor. There was remember the library? That was a kind of library was the first floor. We're the basement.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
so we're underneath.
Okay, so you're on the other side of Mill from what I was thinking. Okay.
So what's the demographic that goes there? Is it college
low
students?
key?
Yeah.
You know what? You'd be surprised. My parents are 70, 75. They love going there.
Yeah.
I'd say when we open, let's say on a given Friday or Saturday night, we're going to open the doors at 7 p.m. Music starts at 8. You'd be surprised. I bet you our average demographic is late 30s until about 11 o'clock at night, and then it kind of transitions. 10:30, 11, it starts transitioning, and then it's it's more 21 to 30.
And they're still playing. So it's from 8 o'clock till 2 o'clock in the morning.
2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Those guys are playing.
Yeah,
Same
there's
dudes
multiple
all night.
guys, but
Oh, okay.
they kind of transition in and out.
Okay.
On a Friday night, we have 4 guys.
But where do you find these guys? Like, where do you find guys that want to do this for like their career? I mean, they're obviously super talented because they can sing and play the piano.
It's tough to find them. It's really tough to find them. When you find a good one, you don't want to lose them.
Yeah.
And then you have to, Father Time catches up. It's
right.
We've got guys that have worked with us for 9 or 10 years, and they're like, I'm not gonna be able to do this forever. I'm like, no, you're not.
But they're probably there's probably like a whole like crew of these. They all know each other.
Yeah, there's actually like a Facebook group too. There's like 5,000 of these people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've tried to join it, but they like shun me. They're like, you're an owner. You're not allowed to be a part of this group. It's just players. I'm like, okay.
So I haven't been to that one, but we were talking, off camera earlier, back in the old Little Ditties days.
Sure.
Is it still like? Does it get kind of like raunchy and a little bit rude? And okay, so
course.
same kind of thing. Okay.
It can get very raunchy at times.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
I'm the owner in the back just cringing and like, I better put my carrier on notice this week. There's another lawsuit,
Yeah. They're going at each other. They're going at the patrons, or both.
Mostly patrons, and they'll like to poke fun at mostly like the bachelorette parties and things.
Oh yeah.
It gets pretty raunchy. The girls love it. I always say, I'm like, it's mind blowing what these guys can get away with saying when they're sitting behind a piano.
Right.
If you just walked into any other bar and that guy said that to that woman, there would be a fight or a slap. It's like, but they just, that's so funny because you're the piano player.
It's almost like a stand-up comedian who, like,
yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah.
You can get away with just about anything.
Yeah.
Well, because they have to it's like I was saying before, it's not just the piano and it's not just like the singing. It's like
no, they're not musicians; they're entertainers.
Yeah,
it's an entertainment. It's not a.
But they're all incredible piano players.
Incredible piano players.
Yeah,
some of them are not as good at singing.
Yeah,
necessarily. They're not actual like some of them are not great singers.
Yeah,
but that doesn't seem to matter. You
Yeah.
know, if you're good at entertaining and you can get that. That you get the crowd engaged. It doesn't.
That's
matter.
what it is. Like you're singing like "Sweet Caroline" and the whole
It's like a
place
sing-along.
is singing.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's all about crowd engagement, and the more you can get the crowd engaged, the more fun it. Honestly, there's nights where it doesn't matter what you do, the crowd's just
Yeah,
and that makes for a long night for those guys.
Yeah,
they're like tonight's brutal. Like,
well, with all the good stuff, there comes bad stuff too, right? So you open up another one in Westgate right before COVID.
yeah, I think we opened in 2019 or something like that.
Yeah.
Early 2019, I don't know. And of course, COVID came March 2020.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing extremely well at that location anyways. It was new. We were trying to figure out ways to market it. But when 70% of your business is literally from concerts and
games,
hockey games and things.
Yeah.
You start doing the math when they canceled live entertainment at that venue and they canceled hockey for a full season. You're like, okay, well, that's one full year. Even if I'm able to open, 70% of my business is not going to be there.
Yeah.
Like that's a recipe for complete disaster. So I contacted the landlords at the time and I'm like, this is just not going to work. I mean, I've got like 8.5 years left of my lease or something. And they're like, well, what if we just have a handshake deal and you walk away from it? And I'm like, you're kidding me.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, I can keep all my stuff. And they're like, yeah.
Why?
Well, yeah. What was the motivation
I don't
behind
know.
that?
I mean, shout out to Yam Properties because they could have just killed me. I mean,
Yeah.
that could have bankrupted me, to be honest.
Did you have to, because I know it was another piano bar before that, right? So when you guys moved in there, did you just like move right in and all their
Kind
stuff
of.
was already there? Or did you
Yeah.
have to like reinvest and go all back in?
I think I was able to open that space for like $500,000.
Okay.
Because we didn't
That's
have
a
to do
lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but it wasn't $1.5 million like
Right.
it should have been. You know, like
Yeah.
we just did the one in Frisco and that was $1.5 million. So
Yeah.
we didn't have to put that much in because it was already built out to be a piano bar. It was massive though. It just far too big of a space. 9,000 square foot.
And that was
Yeah.
Shout Out?
It was Shout House before.
Shout House.
yeah.
Okay.
So when you guys left that, the other place was still doing okay or what?
Low key was still holding its own. I mean, kind of. I mean, you got to remember we weren't even allowed to be open for
Yeah.
like 5 months. I mean,
Yeah.
I was literally just panicking a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, this is my bread and butter, and I'm not making any profits, and we're not open. Plus, I'm trying to do what I thought was the right thing at the time, which I think it is. I was trying to get some of my entertainers' money. It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to lose these guys.
Yeah.
There are places in the country that are open for business that are like, come play here. I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because when I'm opening,
Yeah.
if I'm ready to open, it's like, now you don't have any entertainers. Well,
Yeah.
you're not a piano bar at the time. Then you're just a bar.
So this is one of the best reasons why we do this show, to be honest with you, is because, everybody knows you right now as the guy that has the G-Wagon and the Porsche and the watch and the badass house in North Scottsdale. But this is just 2.5 years ago.
Sure.
You were like, holy cow. Like
I have flat broke.
Yeah.
I mean, I was. I mean, I had dwindled through a lot of my own savings and the bar's savings, the Tempe bar's savings. You got to remember the Tempe bar's savings is what opened the Westgate bar to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
and your dad's involved, and you're like, shit.
my dad's involved, but he is not involved. He's not really involved,
But he was financially involved.
but he was
though.
financially involved from the beginning.
Okay. So you paid him back at that point?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
he's not. He wasn't involved with Westgate really.
Okay.
But it's still scary because it's like being at my age, I don't want to like fall back and be like, hey, I need more money.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, one of the blessings that came out of COVID for you was freshly laid.
Sure.
So, like, how did that even come about? So those are breakfast joints for everybody out there. There's two of them. One in
Fast casual. Yeah.
fast casual.
Yeah. Fast casual breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you remember COVID. Everyone, so much fun. Do you remember the to-go food like just craze?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was getting to-go food to go. Everything was to go. Even bars that were not theoretically like fast food or fast casual bars were
Yeah.
transitioning to like, come get our food to go.
Yeah.
Look at what happened with like certain like Texas Roadhouse. They put windows on the side of their buildings that still use to this day because like this is a genius. Like we're missing on this whole side of the things. They still have it.
There's a Chinese food restaurant on 38th Street in Indian School that still has not opened because they do so well on their to-go.
I was wondering why it hadn't reopened.
Well, because we have a mutual friend who actually owns that shopping center, and he's at war with this guy because the guy won't open up the restaurant. He's like, dude, I don't have to open a restaurant. I make more money just doing to-go orders. He's like, but dude, it's
why would you
taking
want
up
the
all
overhead?
parking, this huge rent. He's like, we can
Why
put
would I
somebody
want
else
an
here.
overhead of
Yeah.
staff if
Yeah,
I
that's
just
a prime
don't
location.
have to have
Yeah.
it?
Well, remember Don Jose's was the same way. It was like the best year they had since the new owners purchased was when COVID hit. That 19.
Anybody that tells you their best year was not the year of COVID is completely full of shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single hospitality restaurant, hospitality concept, their best year was COVID. Because you have to remember, there were no bars open. So liquor sales for restaurants went through the roof.
Because you get to go margaritas.
And people would go sit down and eat.
I used to eat in the
just
parking
so
lot.
they could drink.
Yeah.
You had to have, you had to order something.
Yeah.
Okay, here's chips and salsa. It's a buck.
Yeah.
It's a buck.
Yeah.
Honestly, when we reopened low key, one of the stipulations was you have to serve food. I have a food and beverage license there. I just don't serve food. So I got a little Turbo Chef oven. We served some like frozen pizzas and then chips and salsa. It was $1. You had to come in and order food. $1, and then you can drink all night.
Yeah. Wow.
It's genius.
I mean, that's how we got around it. And honestly, all the restaurants, their food costs. I mean, you figure what your food to liquor ratio is, and most of those. I talked to a lot of these restaurant owners. They're like, dude, we're doing 140% sales this year. I'm like, no kidding, because you're taking all the liquor from my bars and all the people. Yeah. I'm a Series 6 licensed bar. I'm not allowed to be open because I'm bar. If you were a restaurant, you could be open. It's like, how dumb is this?
Right. So you got to create a restaurant inside your bar.
And then once they finally let Series 6 open, they were like, you have to open with food.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so go back to Freshly Laid then.
So I'm panicking. I'm also very bored. I'm just bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, what could I do here? I was talking to some buddies about, I'm like, man, you know what this place is missing? All these fast casual restaurants are crushing it right now. But there's no fast casual breakfast. Like you go to all the places around here for breakfast, there's the Snooze and the Over Easy and the whatever. Breakfast Club. How long does it take you to have?
Squeeze.
Yeah. How long does it take you to have breakfast? Because you're going to go there 2 hours. Yep. I'm like, I can go to Steak 44 faster than sometimes I can go to some of these breakfast places. So I'm like, okay, what would be cool is a fresh like breakfast, like awesome food, but like fast casual.
So is that like a Cava or Chipotle kind of?
It'd be like the Chipotle
it'd
be like the Chipotle approach of Mexican
food.
So,
dude, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
So I'm like, okay, so who's got that concept nailed? I don't know if you go to Vegas, but Egg Slut.
Oh.
Egg Slut has that concept crushed.
Egg Slut?
Egg Slut.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's see. My buddy and I he was actually trying to reach out to see if he could get Egg Slut, like the rights. Didn't happen. Long story short, I'm just kind of brainstorming at my house one day and coming up with names because I've got some places in mind to lease. And all of a sudden one day I'm just like, like something laid, fresh, laid up, egg, all these different things. I'm like, Freshly Laid. I'm like, that's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
Because there's a pun to it.
Innuendos.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right. So that's kind of what I did. I just rolled with it. And so then, obviously fast forward, we came up with the sides and the walk of shame is the main one. And you've got like the sponsor and you've got the morning after burrito. And our sides aren't sides, they're side pieces.
Oh my God. That's awesome. So do you do you consider yourself the brand guy, or do you have like an agency that you work with? Because that's really brilliant.
Like, how did you find all the food? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. Question. The marketing stuff. I mean, this is very clever.
Yeah.
That's kind of just like, that's always been kind of my niche of things.
It's how your brain works.
Yeah, actually, I mean, our slogan once upon a time was "Wipe that egg off your face," which we still use on the napkins. We still use that on the napkins. It's the napkins all still say "Wipe that egg off your face." But I changed the slogan. I changed the slogan probably 4 or 5 months ago because I was just in the shower one day. I'm always thinking. My mind's just always racing with things. And one day somebody said, some old lady walked in one time and she was like, you need to brand yourself as a, fast casual, because I thought this was a full sit down. I'm like, okay, I never really thought about that. But also, I don't really care what most people say. It's like, you're never gonna please everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm in the shower one day. I'm like, fast casual. I'm like, man. And all of a sudden, I'm like, fast casual, no strings attached.
Okay.
So that's our new slogan: fast period, casual period, no strings attached. It's kind of like, it's the sexual innuendos, but it's fast casual. So that's our new slogan. It's on all the bags.
Do you have a marketing degree?
No.
What did you study at IU?
Business, process management.
You're just creative mind.
Yeah, I mean,
when it comes to like sexual stuff, he's very good.
Yeah, I mean,
that's your creative niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's where we just kind of ran. I'm like, all right. So we kind of ran with the whole thing, and the names kind of came super easy after that.
How did you know how to find like even though you were at the other restaurant or the piano bar, like how did you know how to get the food and like how to set it all up and like.
Yeah, I spent a small fortune trying to find the right chef and the right concept and the right approach. I wanted to be something that you could get and eat in your car and not like fall over. We had multiple chefs try it for us, and every one of them would always, put a scrambled egg on a bun and they're eating it. And I'm like, it's falling everywhere. I'm like, this doesn't work. So it wasn't until I think we engaged with a local chef here who's absolutely fantastic, Stacy Weber. I don't know if you know who that is. She's got Eat by Stacy Weber over on Tatum and what would that be, like Tatum and Bell or something.
Okay.
And then she's...
Is that like a little breakfast joint, right?
It's a little catering thing, actually.
Oh, okay.
And she just opened a new restaurant, too, called like Amelia's or something, I think it is.
Okay.
So I'm excited to try that. But she's awesome. She is brilliant when it comes to certain things. So we engaged with her. She kind of created the menu, and then we kind of were like, yes, no, and this. But she nailed it as far as some of the things we wanted. We're like, this is exactly what we wanted.
What's your best seller?
The Walk of Shame.
Is it a breakfast burrito?
It's just a breakfast sandwich. I mean, we're a breakfast sandwich. Like, that's kind of our niche is breakfast sandwiches. But we also have the burritos. We have bowls. I mean,
so what keeps it from spilling out of there?
it's basically just an egg that we. It's basically just an egg that we.
Is it like a hard-boiled egg?
So, no, it's
Fried
we cook in the steam it. Sorry.
Okay.
It's a steamed egg, and so it's kind of like an egg puck, and then we steam a big tray of egg, and then you just cut out the circle,
okay, gotcha.
put it in the bun with all the other stuff. So it's basically just
Sausage McMuffin with egg.
sure, but it's fresh. It's
With a cool name.
It's really good. I mean, we get 9 out of 10 people that come like this rave about it. You're never going to please everybody.
So where's the location? One's in Arcadia.
First one was a trial location in Sonoran Village up at the 101 in Frank Lloyd right there.
Okay.
And that one did really, really well out of a tiny little location. So I was like, all right, if we can make it here, we can make it anywhere. So second one is at 36th and Indian School Road there.
Okay. In that shopping center where Beckett's table is?
It's the opposite side of Beckett's table, yeah.
Oh, it's
next to Zips.
Oh, okay. Okay, but it's in that same shopping center.
Yeah,
I drive by it every
day. The corner, there's the Beckett's on one corner, we're on the other corner.
Okay, gotcha. So has that become your baby now?
Yeah, it certainly was for a while.
Yeah,
and it still is. We're working with. Honestly, we're this close to locking in an airport location.
Okay,
we've been working with some people doing that, and we're trying to raise money. I guess I'm to a point where I'm like, I feel like I've kind of established myself where I'm like things that I do work, and I don't really want to do with my own money anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what rich people do.
Exactly.
They don't use their own money.
I don't want to use my own money.
They don't use their own money.
I'm like, this is kind of like,
basic stuff here, guys.
Right.
Well, let's talk about then the other company you started because of COVID and because of the other restaurants.
Plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was spending a large amount of money on plumbing, a lot of which was just from Low Key Piano Bar because that building that we're in is 130 years old or something. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at my bills one year with my accountant, and I'm like, man, I spent like $30-some thousand on plumbing. Like, this is outrageous. I could own a company for that. And then I started kind of thinking about that after I said it. I was like, I probably could own a company for that.
Yeah. Like
one truck, a guy.
Yeah.
You start doing the math. You're like, that's probably what it would cost. So I reached out to the guy that does all my plumbing for me, and I was like, let's do this. I'll finance it. And fast forward to today, we've got 4 vans, 4 guys. It's growing pretty quickly, and that's kind of become my new baby, to be honest.
Yeah.
What's the name of that?
Guardian Plumbing. It started as I can save $30,000 a year. Into like, holy cow, this is actually pretty profitable.
Very lucrative business, right?
It's like, oh, well.
The margins on plumbing are nice.
Yeah.
And plus it's one of those service, businesses that it's never going to go anywhere, and big venture capital companies love them.
Sure.
And you grow it big enough, you sell them. I've asked our cousin owns a pest control company, and he has for like 30 some years, and he just been kind of cruising doing it. And I've asked him twice to sell it. And last time I've asked him, because his son now runs it basically for him. Because, I've had multiple people ask me to help them find a pest control company. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, I can just take this pest control company, they've got all and just blow.
And it's called Madrid's Pest Control.
Yeah. It's called Madrid's Pest Control. And it's like, and he just had a great life. He's got toys, and he's got, nice house, and everybody seems to be happy. And he just has the route, right? And he worked it himself for mostly all his life until he brought his son in. He's never really had employees. I'm just like, man, how can I get my hands on this freaking pest control company? One day he goes, we got to wait till Brady, which is his son, wait till Brady owns it completely, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Because now it's just, I'm just hanging
all of those kinds of companies, they're not going anywhere.
No.
You're going to need them forever. I mean, I'm actually transitioning into trying to acquire or start restoration side.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, insurance companies have been ripping us off for years. I think it's time we
capitalize on them ripping
off
or just take advantage of the opportunity of the ripoff.
Yeah. So that's kind of the next kind of goal, is to kind of get that. It's a different license. We don't have that license. You need like a full-on general contractor's license to own.
Yeah.
One, so.
Who runs it for you? Like who's like the marketing side, but who's like the actual like dispatcher and shit?
So my business partner Mike and his wife, they kind of do that. She worked at another plumbing company.
Okay.
Which we actually just recently tried to acquire, and it fell through. But we were at the 85-yard line,
really, to
acquire that company.
And that was with your own money, or were you raising capital?
That was partially with my own money, but I just went to the bank and was like, "Yeah, this is what I'm gonna." I mean, the thing was on paper netting some good, capital. Yeah. So I was like, "Man, I really wouldn't need to put all that much money down on that." But it turns out the guy got pretty greedy.
So the young you that was like, "I want a sexy job." Now owns a plumbing company.
It's come full circle, isn't it? Yeah, because I was like, preschools, nursing homes, that's disgusting. I want to own this sexy glitz and glam things with a bar. And then all of a sudden you realize that owning a bar is not sexy, glitz and glam, like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Especially after COVID. I mean, I think I only got sued once or twice prior to COVID. And I think I've probably been sued like 8 or 9 times since COVID. Probably more.
What is usually the claim? Like
I would blow your mind if I told you.
What's the most outrageous one?
The most outrageous one happened about 4 or 5 months ago. It's still pending, 4 or 5 months ago. Was one of the first patrons in after the bar was just freshly cleaned. He was in the bathroom in a urinal and came out. He says he collapsed, but we have footage that proves that he didn't do that. But he's suing us because he ingested too much bleach. Fumes. So he says he's got like a chemical pneumonia and all this stuff, but then he went back and drank with his friends for 3.5 hours.
So he's going to lose the battle. But you still have to hire the attorney. You still got to pay the attorney. It's still going to cost you a bunch of money.
I don't do any of that. Sadly, the insurance companies that you have, you don't get to control anything. So they take care of it entirely, and they plug into their little system and says, you know what? If we just paid this guy $20,000, it'd save us a ton of money. So then we'll just pay him $20,000, and then we'll just up, low key piano bar. Right. You can have a $15,000 more next year.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, man, I wish I could hire my own guys, because that's a slam dunk.
Right.
You just have to pay the money.
So why do you want to get into Pete's piano bars?
So Pete's is, man. So I partnered with
hold
Pete's.
Hold on. So he also partnered with Pete's, which is another piano bar in Texas. And I'll just tell you the story. I'll tell the story for you. He was coming into Texas. They're like, we don't want another person in Texas because the piano bars, there can't be more than one piano bar brand, right? So you go into piano, and basically they're like, we'll just pay you to not come here, or you just join us.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's like, if you know anything about the piano business, you know that really it's not like you can put 10 sports bars and they all work.
Yeah. One
piano bar. One of you is going to make it and one of you is not.
Yeah.
We were the first one there. So they're like, usually the first one there makes it. So they're like, well, we don't want you here. And I'm like, I don't really care because I'm already signed the lease and we're coming.
Well, they were there first.
They're in Texas, but they're not in Frisco, Texas.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So they're in other places. And then they're also in one in Rosemont, like Chicago area. So we kind of engaged in conversation with those guys. How does that look? How would a partnership look? Turned out it looks pretty advantageous to me. So I decided to go that route, and we partnered, and we also have had such a good relationship that pretty much any future piano bar we do will be a Pete's, and it will be partnered with him and I. So
that's cool. So
it's actually,
do you think you'll bring a Pete's here?
If and when whoever in Gilbert decides that they don't like me, I've tried to put a low-key piano bar in Gilbert for 4 years. I put LOIs on 10 different places. Somebody doesn't like me.
What, like, will you not get
I've
approved,
been given every excuse. Oh, that's gonna be too loud of a concept.
Oh, wow.
We're like across from Whiskey Road.
That's
This is gonna be too loud of a
Dirk's
concept.
Bentley's right there.
I'm like, and now Battle Blonde's going in. You know, maybe if they don't get it, but it's like I'm like, okay, we're the loud. I've been given every excuse. I don't know. I think it'd be a great concept for downtown Gilbert. I mean, they hate the idea of Bottle Blonde going in.
Yeah,
I know that. But like low key, the piano bar concept. It's not a rowdy nightclub concept. It's a completely like different clientele. I mean, we don't have fights in piano bars. It's a happy place.
Yeah,
people go there and they're singing different. It's not something where you're in there. You're like, I'm gonna fight this guy.
Yeah, right.
Sweet Caroline.
Right. That's crazy. Well, maybe downtown Chandler is the better spot. I don't know.
We've looked there. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, obviously.
So basically, there might be somebody that doesn't like you that you have to change the name to Pete's Piano Bar.
I think it'll be a Pete's regardless.
Yeah.
And then we had always talked about reskinning Tempe to Pete's.
Yeah. So I was gonna say
we'll see if that ever happens.
So who's Pete? Like, is this a big?
Great question.
Like, I don't know who the hell.
Nobody knows who Pete is. Actually, there's a sign. Who the hell is Pete on the wall? It's just kind of started and who the hell is Pete?
It's another great marketing and branding.
Because people are always like, who's Pete? And we're like, yeah, it's a great question.
Conversation starter.
Yeah. But that one does really well in Frisco. So we ended up partnering with him. Looks really good. Obviously for me, I was like, man, I don't really have to go there. I started doing the math on how often I would travel there, how long I would stay. Okay, I need a car, I need an apartment or hotels, whatever. And I started doing the math on what I would spend probably the first year at least. And then what it would cost for he was like, I can basically run it with my people for a percentage. And I started looking at the percentages. I'm like, man, I'll save money. So I'm like, this is kind of a no-brainer. Plus, I'm not a silent investor. I'm still a partner. Mm-hmm. If I want to go there and say this doesn't work, like we can do that. So
So you bullied your way into an ownership.
Yeah, I mean it's a great thing. And now we're transitioning into he and I have been eyeing Nashville. There's no piano bars in Nashville anymore.
What?
Believe it or not, yeah.
So like that would be the city to do something like that. Yeah.
So we're actually in talks right now with a space in Nashville. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, you'll crush that.
So, and then we're eyeing other markets too. I mean, we want to do 10 more Pete's in the next 10 years, at least.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So sorry, Ryan, I'm interrupting way more than I thought I would. Because I didn't really know much about you until we sat down.
Well, because he's a secret on the internet on purpose.
My God. I Googled you and was starting to get so frustrated. I'm like, does he have an S at the end of his name? I can't find him.
Yeah,
You fly under the radar. You're low key.
I love flying under the radar. I'm not a social media guy. I mean, social media for my businesses are one thing, but for me personally, like I don't post things. I don't. I always thought people that were always just like super showy were just like, man, what's the point? I don't care about this.
You're preaching to the choir here. Yeah. Okay, so I had written a question down like in the first 10 minutes, and you kind of touched on this. So like the bars and restaurants that have sustained, decades, like a AZ88, Patty's, Zips, like what is it? Because most places don't last that long. Like they either like change concepts or they just sell or they fail. Like the life cycle is it's not great, right? With nightclubs in particular.
Most bars will fail within 5 years.
Okay. So what do you think?
If they don't fail within the first year.
The secret sauce is for places like, those are like institutions.
Patty's a good one. That's actually a really good one.
I love that place still.
It just has to go. I mean, I think it goes just with who's running the place. I mean, every bartender in America has poured a drink going, I'm going to own my own bar one day. I'm like, well, let me know how that goes. I have bartenders all the time. They're like, I'm going to leave here. I'm going to go start my own thing. And I'm like, cool, man. And then I'll totally have this job will totally be waiting for you when you get back.
Well, I think in those long-standing bars, the people that work there have been there forever. Like even like
Great.
Rusty Spur.
Yep.
I mean, it's been the same people for 20 years at least there.
I've had my manager at Low Key he was managing it when I bought it.
Really?
His approach is a little different. I kind of was like, we're going to change that approach a little bit. But he still manages. I've had servers and employees that have, a lot of my employees will be there for 5 or 7 years. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And that's a good thing from a turnover point. I mean, we don't have a lot of turnover, excuse me, but yeah, it's those kind of concepts. I think that, I firmly believe that like dive bars, sports bar, dive bars, I consider Zips kind of like a dive bar, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's corporate, but it still has a dive bar kind of feel. Yeah. Those are infinitely more, they're going to be around for a lot longer. Everyone thinks this, I was guilty of it. I was like, I want to own nightclubs.
Yeah.
Those are sexy, like the nightclub. Yeah. Nightclubs are come and go in a year or two.
JT's.
I mean,
perfect
look
example.
at Old Town Scottsdale. Every nightclub down there, if it's not gone, they have to rebrand or they remodel for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Hefe on like their 4th remodel?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole entertainment district. I mean, it doesn't look
don't
anything
get me
like
wrong,
it did 10 years ago.
Those bars crush.
Oh, they murder it.
Crush. But you have to always be like reinventing the wheel. Or else
they
you're
put
irrelevant.
in Casamigos next to Bottle Blonde, which is basically the exact same bar.
Well, they're all the exact same.
They all are. Hefe's the same as Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Something happens where they decide a different crowd goes there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bevy. I mean, it's an insane.
Sure.
But there was a Barstool episode after the Super Bowl, and they were talking about how they came here, and that's when the Barstool bar opened up, and they all went to Patty's. They were talking about it on the podcast. They're like, yeah, we went to this place called Patty's, and everybody was there. All like the athletes, all the people like the Nelk boys, and the guys that were KFC and all those guys. They all just went there. Portnoy went there instead of the bar that they own down, because it was too crazy. It's too nightclubby.
Yeah,
they're like, we wanted a dive bar.
I love dive bars. I mean,
what's the best dive bar in town?
I mean,
in your opinion,
Patty's right up there, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Trey, you got one?
It just depends.
Patty's is mine.
Yeah,
It's probably mine too.
Yeah, I mean, I like Goodwood too.
Goodwood's a tweener.
It's a little bit of a tweener.
It's a tweener.
Where's that?
It was all like Shotgun Betty's or something. Was that one?
It's right on. It's like where the old McDuffie's used to be and DJs.
Yeah.
And right there. It's the corner spot. It was remodeled, and it's definitely a dive-ish bar for that area.
Sure.
But it's no JT's.
No. JT's is
Patty's.
You know what's great about those is that people in their 50s can go there with their kids who are in their 20s and feel totally at ease. Like, I love it's like a multi-generational.
Dilly Dally? Don't forget that one.
Dilly Dally's great.
That's right in your
That's
neighborhood.
right by Freshly Living.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we crush Parents Weekend at Low Key. Because people are like, their kids are like, I don't really want to take my parents to Casa or whatever so it's like, where can I take my parents where like we'll all have a good time but they won't feel uncomfortable? We crush Parents Weekend.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
It's fantastic.
I'm not surprised.
That's awesome. So is there any other things you got going on besides the potential restoration, or what else is in your mind?
I just invest in other random people's concepts too. I mean, I'm happy to things that are doing well. I mean, I'll happily dabble in those. It's like I invested into SDK and Toka and things like that. So there's a new one the new one that's going to be opening in Houston called Maison. I'm going to get in that one as well.
Same guys.
Yeah.
That own Toka.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that guy's name? Tobin or
there's a couple guys. The Noble 33 is the concept, the brand now that owns it. I think they originally separated from Toka Madera Group. I think.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Noble Group or Noble 33 or something.
Cool, man. Well, Cece, you had a lot to bring to the table today.
No kidding. This was fun.
Yeah. It's good for us to expand into the world of hospitality. We have not had anybody in this world yet.
I'm watching the show and I'm like, God, these guys seem real polished, professional. I'm like, that is just not me. I'm like, I don't even own a button-up shirt. I'm like, I wake up every day and I throw on a t-shirt. I'm like, that's just me.
Well, that's what we all want to do.
That's what Trey does. This is his uniform.
Right. So I'm like, God, these guys are all look really professional. I don't think I'm really.
Well, we're glad you came, dude. It went really well. We appreciate it. And do you have any more questions before we go?
I have so many, but we're almost at an hour.
Okay, cool.
So.
All right. So thank you again. This is Austin Walter, and it's what's the name of the company? The hospitality group?
Food Fight Concepts.
Food Fight Concepts. Damn it. That's a question. How did that come about? Another
that
one
was
of your
just a
deal?
random name.
Okay.
We were tossing around lunch one time. I was like, that's a cool cut.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Quick answer. All right. So thanks for coming on. Thanks to everybody that listens and watches the podcast. Into the Storm on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Go to all the social media platforms, please, and follow us and share. And thank you again to Bison Ventures. We are a mortgage company. So please, if you're looking to purchase a home or refinance, we are here to help. And you can contact me or my sister on social media. So, yeah, I guess that's the best way of saying it. All right, everybody. So thank you. Take care, and please watch.